Good morning, everybody, and welcome along to what this morning was a very, very frosty Karting Genk, the home of champions, for finals day for the 2026 running of the Champions Winter Trophy. This legendary circuit, based in the Limburg region of Belgium, is going to have the superheats and the finals today, which will crown our 2026 Champions Winter Trophy winners here in this part of February. Of course, it's just a few weeks away from the beginning of the BNL Karting Series season as we go trackside. This is a WFR live TV production. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, your commentator for the duration of today, as you see picture-in-picture on the official live stream on both the BNL Karting Series YouTube channel and also our Facebook page. Very good morning to everybody already joining us in the chat. Sam Baker in YouTube asks, well, what classes are on today? Well, Sam, just to give you the information, it's Mini and Mini Rookie, Junior Max, Senior Max, DD2 and DD2 Masters. We're going to have a total of 6 superheats this morning. There's going to be 2 respectively for the junior and the senior classes, after which, with the final intermediate classification, the top 36 will go into the respective finals this afternoon. And when I left to come to the circuit this morning, it was around about -2, -3 degrees. Temperature set to hit around about a high of about 6, but that's probably until later on in the day. But it was incredibly crisp, incredibly brisk, and also there was ice in the car park as well with puddles. So more to the point, we've got quite a few people coming in on the YouTube chat. Gage Moyes, Sam Baker, we've got someone cheering on Zain Safoglu, one of our young drivers in the mini categories. Oliver Spencer saying good luck to KR Sport, the team run by Ash Orchard. And as you can see yesterday, new graphics for the timing and also some indications such as fastest laps, warning flags, mechanical black flags, and a big thank you to the team at WFR Live TV for their the significant improvements that we've had for the graphics, so they look a bit more pleasing to the eye. But there's a lot of anticipation, because on the weekend of the 21st and the 22nd of March, the BNL kickstarts its 2026 Road to Portimao here, well, at Racing Kart JPR in Austricourt, and also the new United Kart Series, which is a joint collaboration between Chrono Karting and Rotax Max Challenge Belgium. To amalgamate the two series together, they kickstart their season the first weekend of March right here at the home of champions, and they'll be running all the way through to early November. The BNL Karting Series will conclude its series run to Portimao here at the home of champions the 3rd and 4th of October. So the 3-minute board has been shown. We've had the initial intermediate classification on that point. Sebastian Behrmann took one of the 3 different victories yesterday. Dayan Habits took Heat 2, and Eddie Duncan, who rounds out the top 3, 20 points separating the top 3. They were the 3 respective winners. We've got some very, very hard chargers in this field, including the likes of Jackson Hilton and James Roots, both running with Dan Holland Racing. Also, Kian Hay is the top-ranked mini rookie driver, the number 68, who put it second in time qualifying yesterday morning. And there is Julius Cabal, who is with the team Kraft Motorsport, the youngster from Germany in the 151, starts from 16th on the grid. So plenty of drivers in this, including the fact that we've got 34 drivers in total here this weekend from a variety of different nationalities. So let's have a look at a reminder of what Karting Genk truly looks like. So the circuit itself, known as the Hodenbergsdam, located in the eastern part of the country, not too far away from the German and the Dutch borders. The Dutch border is basically 15 minutes away. The track itself has been established since the mid-1980s, and it measures 1,360 metres, runs clockwise, 3 sectors in all, 11 turns in total, and it is a true driver's track, combining speed and technicality, and a lot of chat going on with nearly 200 views on the YouTube channel. Of course, if you are watching on Facebook, thank you so very much for joining us as well. Don't forget, you can head to our official website for bnlkartingseries.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Why not give the social media channels a like as well? bnl.kartingseries is the handle on Instagram. But in comparison with yesterday, which is very, very overcast, despite the fact we've got a crisp, fresh morning here on the 15th of February 2026, sunshine is bathing the circuit in warmth, which will help with grip and adhesion. The drivers have already been through morning warm-up, which started at around about 9 o'clock this morning. So the superheat will take place over a duration of 9 minutes plus an additional lap, in comparison with 7 minutes plus an additional lap. The final for Mini and Mini Rookie will be 12 minutes plus an additional lap. As now it's time for the drivers to get ready to go racing. Green flag at the dummy grid. Engines start up, and here we go. Here is your starting order for the Mini Max and Mini Rookie Superheat for the Champions Winter Trophy for 2026 here on Finals Day. So, starting on pole position, the 137 of Strawberry Racing, Sebastian Behrman will start on pole position. Alongside him on the front row will be DN Habits. Oh, dramas already for Evert van Middeldorp on the Maranello in the number 4 kart. That's definitely not what the driver wanted to have happen, so trying to turn it around. So, Sebastian Behrman and DN Habits start on the front row. Evert van Middeldorp gets the kart going again, so well played by the number 4. Eddie Duncan and James Roots round out row 2. Jackson Hilton and Conrad Doyle, row 3. Row 4, August Lickibor Lingsor and Kian Hay. Maria Roberto and Jonathan Falcon Otterson will thereby complete the next row itself. And they complete the top 10. Milita Karlsmaker and Ivan Janicievich round out row 6. Zane Safoglu and Ryan Townsend round out row 7. Arlo Gambo and Julius Grabo, row 8. Maltehom and Harris Barber, row 9. Tim Hamsler and Louis Lataros round out the top 20. Amisio Zani, Benjamin Silva, Tristan Abeels, Gillian Janssen, Adam Dion Asp, Arthur Bowers, Ben Falker, Lenny Barton, Evert van Middeldorp, Chloe Sorensen, Arno Hartstra, Sofus Billy Jacobsen, Omer Masudieli and Kan Argus Akun round out the grid. So 9 minutes plus an additional lap of the 1,360 metre circuit, first established back in the middle of the 1980s, and in 2000 got revised to the circuit we see now. It's hosted international events, World Championship and European Karting Championship events, and also other events such as the Saudi World Series in years past, quite recently, this is within the last 2 years. So, as you can see, with the sun beaming down onto the backs of the drivers, we now come through in towards turn 9 here at Cafe Corner, just by the grandstand, which is just off of the fantastic a la carte brasserie we have here at the circuit. And a big thank you to Patrick and his team for keeping everyone fueled and hydrated all the way through the weekend. Come day, come night. Once again, proceedings overlooked by race director Manuel Branco and his team. The red lights are on the gantry for the first time here on Finals Day. As we're revved up, adrenaline is flowing, anticipation high here in the Limburg region of Belgium. Out of turn 11, the final corner, come the field. And it is time for the first time today. Revs up, lights on. Lights are out and underway for the superheat. Good start by Sebastian Behrman. But it's Eddie Duncan trying to dive to the inside. James Roots is there. As several drivers use the runoff area, but we have had a little bit of a contretemps. A couple of karts make that 3 off of turn 1. And now it's the Strawberry Racing 1-2 as Duncan slots in behind. But and there's been a multi-cart incident coming through into turn 5 of the Europolan. 5 carts going backwards. Someone very, very slow down the back straight at the Europolan. So a few drivers coming into strife. Meantime, at the front end of the field, they're making their way out of turn number 8, down into 9. And it is the 127, Jackson Hilton from Dan Holland Racing. Oh, Tristan Abeles has just been given the black flag by Race Control. So the 131 has been given the black flag. Sorry, Tristan Abeles 109, not. So Tristan Abeles is going to have the black flag that has been awarded to. My apologies there, I got myself confused with D and Habits. He's just gone through on Eddie Duncan, through at turn 2 for second position. But here comes the 132, James Roots, and August Lickebel-Lingsol makes it 3 wide coming out of turn number 5 and gets the job done. Roots, however, decides otherwise, runs a little bit deep into turn 6. Now through 7. Cian Hay is trying to make his way up the order in the number 68. He's got quite a way between himself and Arthur Bowers, who's up 11 spots up to 15th. So unfortunately, we've lost Evert van Middeldorp. Chloe Sorensen, driver from One Racing, the all-female driver lineup for RS competition, run by Robert Schlinson, who also runs the Voyens Motorsport Arena that will be hosting the inaugural RMC Viking Trophy on the first weekend of April in Denmark this year. So the first couple of minutes are in the books, and Sebastian Behrmann leading DN Habits by the best part of nearly half a second. And there is the 108. Conrad Doyle behind fellow Dane in the number 68, Cian Hay. A couple of changes of position. The likes of the 120, Multiholm dropping a couple of positions down to 18th. But Behrmann trying to pull away. DN Habits has got August Lickebel-Lingsol, who's made it up from 7th on the grid, now runs P3 overall. James Roots, Eddie Duncan, Jackson Hilton, Ryan Townsend, who made some great strides forward yesterday, being followed by KR Sport teammate Maria Roberto. So remember when Maria used to run at Roy House back in the day, a few years ago. And there's a change for the lead. DN Habits through on Sebastian Behrmann for the race lead. James Roots is the fastest driver out there. 59.766 for the 132. And here goes the 111 up the inside. So that is now a change for second. Sebastian Behrmann finding himself down in 3rd position. Took overall pole position yesterday morning. Temperature's still very, very cold. We are basically at freezing, 0 degrees centigrade. Could be a move down here into turn 9. Yep, Roots is through. And Behrmann, I don't think has the purchase he wants quite at the minute, because everyone else, as the track starts to evolve, we're 4 minutes through, 5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. And Sebastian Behrmann just points forward, as if to say to James Roots, if he can catch it through his peripheral vision, right, I'm going to follow you, you go chasing, you lead the way. Sometimes that's a good strategy. Meantime, August Lickebel-Lingsol trying to get through on DN Habits. Now the big thing is that they are both under the same awning. Dams Racing, run by Jan Dams himself. So we are more than halfway through this superheat for Mini and Mini Rookie. And DN Habits is not running away. James Roots is definitely closing in on the 2 in front. The 132 from the United Kingdom. Closing in. Gap between the top three is 4.5 tenths of a second. And there goes James Roots with an audacious late move up the inside. Lickebel-Lingsol tries, well, has no alternative but to possibly use the runoff area. And now James Roots just says the universal hand signal of what on earth was that, or moment between the two, and they just clash sidewalls. Then they start arguing between themselves, and Sebastian Behrman's just been given a get-out-of-jail-free card. Meantime, Eddie Duncan's come into this, so is Jackson Hilton, and whilst those two were squabbling, everyone else kept their composure and took complete advantage of the situation. So, black and white warning flag being shown to August Lickebel-Lingzo, who's now a little bit further down than P2, as we are about to complete 6 laps of this race here at Genk for the Mini and Mini Rookie Superheat. So, Lickebel-Lingzo remains in 3rd position, but here comes the hard charging and fired up James Roots through on teammate Jackson Hilton. As a result of that, Maria Roberto gets through in the 152 with that very distinct purple race helmet that she normally sports. It's evolved over the years as that design. And even though the adrenaline is quite high here at Karting Genk for this one-off event that starts the season. Oh no! James Roots has a massive moment. Back in steps out and catches Jackson Hilton unawares, who manages to just get out of the way at the last moment. And here comes the 99. There's Arthur Bowers in the KR Sport Cosmic chassis. He's battling away with the likes of Louis Litauras. Warning flag will be shown to James Roots the next time he crosses the stripe. It was looking also promising for the 132, but it's gone suddenly south all of a sudden. As there's Rayan Townsend battling away with teammate Conrad Doyle. Some great new talents that have joined the lineups in some of the mainstays. As through goes Jonathan F. Otterson through on Jackson Hilton. And here goes Camilo de Carlsmaker for Dams Racing. He gets through. So a lot of toing and froing here in the Mini and Mini Rookie Superheat. Just over a minute to go, plus an additional lap. And then diving to the inside, one over the other. Jackson Hilton over the back of Milo de Carlsmaker. That didn't quite work out. And some people will take that little bit of desperation to get through. It's a win it or bin it manoeuvre. But luckily enough, Jackson Hilton able to continue after that manoeuvre. James Roots is all the way down in 16th position, probably struggling. May just want to try and conserve what he can through damage limitation. Get that cart across the line. So, black and white warning flag will be shown to the number 47, Lenny Barton, who's up 2 places from 28th on the grid. Currently P26 as we are coming down to the final few seconds. Day and Habits now making his way through into the final corner. We will now go on to the last lap of the Mini Max and Mini Rookie Superheats. And the gap he has over Sebastian Behrman is nearly 1.2 seconds. Adjustment on the radiator flap there on the right-hand side of the kart by Eddie Duncan, who currently sits behind August Lickebel-Lingzo in the 111. We've also had another retirement in the form of Arno Hardstra in the 102. So 30 karts rounded out by Germany's Tim Hansler. Rounds out the runners and riders that are still on this final lap of the race. 10 laps set to be completed. And Day and Habits doing a very, very good job in the 131. Got through, made the jump to the sharp end of the field. It's going to be, I think, between him and Sebastian Behrman. As we will now exit out of the final corner. It is going to be Day and Habits that is going to come to victory here in the Superheat. Sebastian Behrman, good, solid consistency. Takes P2. August Lickebel-Lingzo, very, very jubilant about taking that 3rd place ahead of Eddie Duncan. Great work by Maria Roberto. She started 9th on the grid, finishes P5. Head of Conrad Doyle, Harris Barber. Good work by the number 112. Running with Strawberry Racing. Moved up 11 places to finish P7. And there you see the winning information. 10 laps, 13.6 kilometres. Just over 10 minutes of racing. And a speed just over 50 miles an hour in terms of average speed there. So there is your top 12 rounded out by Ray and Townsend. Well, after Harris Barber, it's Jonathan Falcon Otterson for Oris Competition, Ray and Townsend, Kian Hay, Julius Janssen and Julius Carball rounding out the top 12. Jackson Hilton, Ivan Janikiewicz rounds out 14th, head of Mila de Karlsmaker, James Roots, Arthur Bowers, Louis de Towns, Zane Sofoglu and Ben Falker rounding out your top 20. Malte Holm, Benjamin Sligar, Arlo Gamble and Lenny Barton round out the top 24. Amizi Ozani, Adam Dion Asp, Kan Aras Arkun, Sofas Billy Jakobsen, Omer Masudieli, Tim Hansler, Anna Hodstra and Tristan Abeels, the last of the classified finishers. Evert van Middeldorp and Chloe Sorensen, unfortunately, didn't make it past lap number 1. But here are the highlights of the Superheat for Mini and Mini Rookie. Coming up next, we've got DD2 and DD2 Masters for their Superheats here at the Champions Winter Trophy. Well, after the highlights from the Mini and Mini Rookie Super Heat, we turn our attention to DD2 and DD2 Masters, the 2-speed gearbox categories of the Rotax racing family. And when it came to our DD2 competitors, well, 3 different winners from 3 different races. Wout Kirstens taking the win in heat number 1 for Combi Kart Racing Team. William Norbeek took the win in heat 2. And France's Hugo Dupont for G-Kart 53 took the final victory yesterday late afternoon. And in terms of our DD2 Masters division, well, it's only 3 points between Jim Ringelberg and the 547, who was very honest on social media last night, saying about the fact that, first 4 laps, good thing. And then I said to him that I said on the live stream that he's got more tricks up his sleeve that could put a magician out of business. Well, maybe he's got a few more up his sleeve in these conditions, but he took a good amount of points yesterday, finishing ahead for one of the 3 races ahead of, 2 of the races ahead of Christophe Capitan, who is the B&L Karting Series champion from last year, as the green flag shows at the end of the dummy grid. 19 drivers in all, set to go racing over the next 12 minutes, plus an additional lap. And as you can see, everyone very much layered up with hoodies, snoods, scarves, gloves, even maybe the old body warmers with the heating elements in them. So let's take you through the grid for this 12-minute plus an additional lap Super Heat. It's Wout Kirstens that starts on pole position in the 466 for Combi Kart Racing. Then it's RS Competitions, William Norbeek in the 428 that rounds out the front row of the grid. Hugo Dupont in the 422 starts third ahead of the 415 of countryman Noah Hip on the Birolot. Jordi Kleber and Jort van Wyk will round out row number 3 ahead of Jan Eckstein and Jim Ringelberg. Then we'll have Christophe Capitan and Frederick Jules Sorensen, Ben Kaminski, Christoph Adams, Bennett Demler, Ralph van der Pavert, Roman Jäger, Merman Benamor, Theo Lewan and Wilfried Merafina rounds out your starting grid. Fortunately, Marcel Schirmer was due to take part in the race weekend. I haven't had any contact with him as such as to why he didn't take part in qualifying and is going to be a confirmed non-starter. So 12 minutes plus an additional lap of the 1.36 kilometre circuit here at the Home of Champions. Red lights are on the starting gantry as we get set and ready for our second Super Heat that will take us a third of the way through the 6 that we've got this morning. And then we will have 4 finals in total. 12 heats yesterday, thereby making it a total of 22 races over the course of the weekend's running. Drivers lipping the throttles, trying to help the oil circulate around the 125cc Rotax Max Evo engines. So who's going to get the whole shot into turn 1? Let's very shortly find out as they will head out of the 11th and final corner. They head into the tram lines. Revs up, lights on. Lights are out for the Super Heat as we get going on the run down to turn number 1. Norbeek to the outside. But here goes Hugo Dupont to the inside of the Dane. Uses the runoff area. Tries to hold on to turn 2. Oh, but Dupont tries round the outside. A little bit sideways there from Norbeek. Here comes Noah Hip. And he gets through on his countryman. into turn number 4. Great work there by the 415. Dupont very brazen in trying to get through on William Norbeek, opened up the door, and then that allowed Noah Hip, without any hesitation, to take complete advantage and get through rather rapidly. So down into turn 9 at Cafe Corner. Bit of a late lunge there from York Van Wyk on Jordi Clerball. And the 433 from SP Motorsport loses a little bit of time in the process just by stumbling over the inside curb. 1 lap in the books. Wout Kirsten leads. William Norbeek second. Hugo Dupont P3. And Jim Ringelberg, well, his magician's hat is working. He's up to P5 already overall. As Noah Hip closes ever more to the rear bumper of the 428 from RS Competition in front. And Hip's just gone purple in the opening sector. 21.932. Norbeek also went sub 22 seconds on the opening sector. As they make their way out of turn number 8 into turn 9 here at Cafe Corner. Noah Hip might be sizing up a move on Norbeek very, very shortly as they go down into the braking zone for turn number 11. Noah Hip biding his time, waiting for his opportunity. Dupont coming to try and fight back at them. Ringelberg leading the Masters side of things. Noah Hip to the inside of Norbeek. Bumps over the curbs. Through gets the Frenchman on the Dane. That's P2. Now onto the famed Europalan. And looks like Norbeek might not have the purchase or the speed that he wants. Looks over his right shoulder. Sees the Sodi kart of Hugo Dupont from G-Kart 53. So, oh, well, we've had a drama. Jordi Clerball out of the race very, very early indeed. So, the 411 is probably going to find himself towards the back end of the grid for the final, which will take place at about 2:15 local time, barring any delays or stoppages. But now it's going to be a quartet battling for the top position. And the top 4 covered by just under 0.8 of a second after the opening 3 laps. Noah Hip with the fastest lap of the race as he chases down the race leader Wout Kirstens from the Netherlands. 54.532. Noah Hip bouncing off of the curb going through into turn 7. The right rear wheel hit the inside curbing. Nearly spat out the back axle to the left-hand side. But still, this quartet very closely packed. As Jim Ringelberg now finds himself behind Christophe Capitain as the change for Masters has occurred. So the first 3 to 4 laps is where the sweet spot happens. But there goes Noah Hip on Wout Kirstens at turn 1. Change for the race lead. Norbeek and Dupont come into play. The quartet at the front end of the field. After the opening 4 laps, there goes Dupont up the inside of Norbeek, who might get the inside run, but not able to use the run coming out of turn 5 and into turn 6, now through into 7. So Norbeek unable to use the potential of a slipstream coming out of that turn 5 onto the Europalan, which is running parallel to the main road that leads into the centre of Genk. And they're going faster than the drivers that are on the main road itself. 5 laps in the books. Noah Hip, new race leader. Wout Kirstens about 3.5 of a second behind. Needs to be about within 0.2 of a second window behind the French driver. And Gage Moyes, I did notice you said about 6-7 earlier on this morning. Don't start that. Don't start that. And stop spamming the chat. Meantime, well, now William Norbeek is ahead of Wout Kirstens. So Kirstens, the winner of the Dutch Championship for Chrono Karting last year. has been gathering in terms of strength and racecraft over the past couple of seasons, and is really coming into his own as a very up-and-coming DD2 driver. Meantime, a little bit further back in the order, Jan Eckstein 5th, ahead of Jort van Wijk, Christophe Capitan, Jim Ringelberg, Ralph van der Pavert now through on Bennett Demler. Good. Well, I had a quick chat with Ralph yesterday, and he actually got he had nowhere to go. Someone spun in front of him, and then he accidentally T-boned them, and then all of a sudden that was it. Game over for Heat 2. So Ralph making some inroads. Christoph Adams, a man who really, in the Rotax racing family, needs no introduction, rounds out your top 3. In the DD2 Masters side of things, he's behind Ben Kaminski from Germany. So we are now more than, well, we're past the halfway point. 5.5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap in this DD2 and DD2 Masters Super Heat. Up next, we'll have Super Heat A for the juniors. And I'm sure that will be rather feisty for both junior Super Heats. And then to take us to the lunch break, we'll have the Senior Max Super Heats. As I said earlier, with 47 juniors, 51 seniors, the top 36 will only make it through after the final intermediate classification to the top 36 finals, which we'll start with the finals at 1:45 this afternoon, local time, here in Central Europe. And unfortunately, there's been a drama for Frederik Sorensen, out after a couple of laps, after 5 laps. So it's not going to be a good day in the office for that Danish driver. However, there are some changes. Theo Lemoyne has moved up into 13th position and is ahead of Roman Jäger, Genesius Momen Benamor, and Wilfried Merafina. I would say is probably related to Timio Merafina, who is running a little bit later on, so sounds like father and son combination to me if they are related. 8 minutes down, 1/3 of the race still to go. 4 minutes plus an additional lap, and it is Noah Hipp that continues to lead the way, and it's the French 1-2 with Hugo Dupont just behind in the G-Kart 53, number 422 Sodi Kart. But still very close. Top 4 covered by just over a second, as we are now on to lap number 10 of this race. 3 minutes and 3:35 plus an additional lap still remaining on the counter. And in the meantime, Ralph van der Pavert now up into P6, and he's just about 0.3 of a second off of his SP Motorsport teammate Jort van Wijk. And they've got Christophe Capitan, Jan Eckstein, and there's going to be a move by Bennett Demler very shortly. As there you see the top 4 once again, this time covered by just over 0.92 of a second. And technical black flag, I'm afraid, for our Tunisian Momen Benamor, who is going to have to head into the pit lane, I'm afraid. But here comes Hugo Dupont went round the outside at turn 5. And now Noah Hipp goes late on the brakes. Tag from Norbeek behind. Here comes Wout Kirstens. And now the gloves, as they say, are off. Noah Hipp still, despite the high, wide and handsome manoeuvre around the outside at turn 5, courtesy of Hugo Dupont, going down the Europelan, managed to keep a hold of the race lead. Because the facts of the matter is these drivers are running in the mid 54 second lap time bracket. We're going to have probably more than likely 4 laps to go. 1 minute and 50 plus an additional lap remaining on the timer. And Noah Hipp's lead is slender, 2.5 of a second. Then it's a further nearly 0.3 back to William Norbeek in P3 from Hugo Dupont. Wout Kirstens still, I think, has an outside opportunity here. Down the inner line they go once again. So the top two, the two French drivers at the sharp end of the field, are starting to pull away. More to the point, Dupont. Now here comes Wout Kirstens to the inside. Great move through at turn 9. Sweeps through. Norbait gave him room. And Wout Kirstens said, thank you very much. I'll take that every single day of the week. Even on Sundays. Three more laps to go. They cross the line with the minutes to spare. Norbait returns the favour. Through at turn 1. So third place changes twice in around about 5 corners. Now, it might be the case that Hugo Dupont has decided, right, I need to hurry up. I need to get past the guy in front of me. Sometimes that can be easier said than done, but they come through turn 9 into turn 10, and it's the run to the final corner. We are going to be very tight on time. It will be more than likely with the acceleration they'll get out of the final corner at turn 11. 2 laps to go. Noah Hip still holding on to the race lead. Timer has hit 0. So we've probably got just over about 2 kilometres of racing left in the bag here in DD2 and DD2 Masters for the Superheat. So on lap 14 out of 15, Noah Hip on the 4.15 Birolart stays ahead of the 4.22 Sony Kart of Hugo Dupont. So one more lap remains after this. Noah Hip into the final corner, neatly on the brakes, turns it in, rotates the kart rather smoothly. 1 lap to go. And his lead over Hugo Dupont is 0.365 of a second. Now heading through turn 2, turn 3, then turn 4, up to turn 5. That brings us on to the back straightaway, the famed Yodapolan as it's known. William Norbait still ahead of Wout Kirstens, who started on pole position for this race. But Noah Hip through into turn 7 for the final time. Nice, neat and composed from the French driver. Out of turn 8. Down into 9. 2 more corners remain. Can Hugo Dupont spring a surprise on Noah Hip? With the way that the distance between the two is, I don't think that's going to be possible unless a tighter line taken through the final corner. But it is Noah Hip that is going to win the Superheat here in DD2 and Masters by 0.34 of a second ahead of Hugo Dupont. William Norbait takes P3 ahead of pole sitter Wout Kirstens. Great run by Ralph van der Pevert from SP Motorsport, finishing in 5th, having started all the way down in 14th overall, and finishes ahead of teammate from SP Motorsport, Jort van Wijk. Bennett Demola, Jan Eckstein take 7th and 8th. Winner in DD2 Masters this time around by about 9 and a bit tenths of a second. Francis Christophe Capita in 9th, with Jim Ringelberg in the 547 representing the Netherlands. And Ringelberg Racing rounds out your top 10. Theo Lemoigne in the 496 for Le Hook Racing Team, run by sim racer extraordinaire and also a man that isn't afraid of getting behind the wheel of a kart, Arthur Le Hook. Christoph Adams rounds out the top 3 in Masters, ahead of Ben Kaminski, Robin Jäger and Wilfried Merafina, that all finished the race. Maman Benamor unfortunately having a mechanical black flag, with Fredrik Jules Sorensen and Jorik Klebo unfortunately eliminated from the race. But that is it. We'll leave you with the highlights coming up next. Junior Max Superheat A. So we now turn our attention, as we've got a couple of carts just being recovered in from the circuit. We now turn our attention to the first of two superheats for our junior Rotax division. Very, very competitive in all of the respective heats yesterday, but at the end of the intermediate classification, Jensen Chalk with a third and a first in his respective heats is at the top of the points, so to speak. But we are separating the drivers into two respective groups, so at least the top 36 after the final intermediate classification will go through to the final later on. The top 10 covered by 29 points. I have to give a shout out to a good friend, Will Fuchs from Fuchs Huff Management, who actually are the management team behind Finley Lines, the son of Stuart Lines, TCR UK and Miltech Sports Civic Cup promoter. Of course, for those that know Rob Huff, World Touring Car Champion, has had 30 wins overseas and has worked with a variety of manufacturers, including Seat. Chevrolet made a recent return to the British Touring Car Championship. So, Will, there you go. There's your shout out. I know he messaged me on Instagram a little bit earlier on. But Finley, also another one of the many drivers. We've got such great talent in this junior Rotax grid for this weekend. So I think there's quite a few drivers in this grid that have a possibility of winning the events here at the Champions Winter Trophy for 2026. And there we see one of our drivers from KR Sport. That'll be Lucian Smith in the 240. Already cheers coming in for Conrad Doyle in the chat. So the temperature has started to rise around about 1 or 2 degrees centigrade. So these drivers will have a little bit of a wait to see how the rest of the opposition go into battle for the second of the superheats for our Junior Max division, which will be taking place at around about 11:40 local time. Nearly 400 of you watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us here live and direct from the home of champions, Karting Genk in Belgium. So 9 minutes plus an additional lap for Junior Rotax Superheat A for the 2026 running of the Champions Winter Trophy here at Karting Genk. A little wave to the camera by one of the drivers from Shepherd's Racing. That will probably more than likely be Tygo Holthausen. Here's your starting grid. On pole position, MLC Motorsports, Jensen Chalk. And he'll be joined by SP Motorsports, Lieke van Berkel on the front row of the grid. Kian Bernard and Alfie Ward will be on row number 2. Finny Lines and Olivia Mizurkiewicz will be on row number 3. Kimi Mai will be joined by the Netherlands' Tren van Melk on the next row, followed by Alex Goodson and Harry Taylor. Lucian Smith and Lionel Munguia are next up, ahead of Tobias Johns and Leonard Kirsta. Devon Miet and Ludwig Hansson from the Netherlands and Denmark will be next up, ahead of Francis Augustin Hanik and Tygo Holthausen from the Netherlands. Reres Cosmin Pascu from Switzerland, ahead of Tim Feldman, Brake Dion, Jod Rent and Kieran Stewart, rounding out your grid. Bendik Schulte, who has unfortunately not been able to compete this weekend, will be a non-starter. And Emerson McAndrew Uren on cue. Junior is going to be intense, yes. I think you could have said that yesterday, Emerson, but never mind. However, it will be for both superheats for the Junior Rotax division. 9 minutes plus an additional lap. For the seniors, it will be the same time as what we have allocated for DD2 and DD2 Masters. 12 minutes plus an additional lap. And it will be feisty. And Cage Boy says, yes, I hope so. In agreement with Emerson McAndrew-Uren. And great to see Josh Cook, hopefully less crashing than in Mini. Yeah, well, fingers crossed, Josh, but there's always that unpredictability here about karting. I've been in the booth long enough to know about it. So, there is your starting grid. Nice to have a quick chat with Mike Chalk, Jensen's dad, last night. Always a barrel of laughs is Mike, so always good to see him in fine form with a smile on his face. Red lights on the starting gantry as the drivers pass the red line of no return. They cannot overtake past that line, otherwise it's an automatic 5-second penalty added to their total race time post every session. So the drivers make their way through the final corner. Let's get underway with Superheat A for Junior Rotax. Into the tram lines. Revs up. Lights are on. Lights are out. We're underway in Superheat A. And a good start by Jensen Chalk. But already, the 282 of Sam Pollock Racing's Kian Bernard, who put it on pole position yesterday, out of the 47 drivers that took part in the 2 sessions of time qualifying. Got a little bit wide. But a couple of drivers, I think including Lucian Smith, have made their way quite a way up the order. Lucian Smith definitely has vaulted his way up towards the sharper end of things. There are a couple of drivers that are starting to break away early. There's Lieke van Berkel battling away with Finley Lines in the 281. But at the moment, leading the way is Jensen Chalk. And following him is going to be the 226 Alex Goodson. Great start by the driver from Dan Holland Racing. And that's a big vault up the order. And that's 7 places on the opening lap. Lucian Smith has made up 8 places on the opening lap, and he runs P3. Started 11th on the inside of row number 6. And here goes Goodson for the lead. Switch back from Chalk. Side for side for the briefest of moments. And Jensen Chalk retakes the race lead. Good exchange by the 2 at the front end. Kian Bernard now gets through on Lucian Smith, who drops down to 4th. Then it's Kimi Mai, Harry Taylor, Lieke van Berkel, Finley Lines, Olivier Mazurkiewicz and Trent van Melk, who at the moment round out your top 10. Finley Lines going purple in Sector 2. Van Berkel, purple in Sector 1. Goodson so far has the fastest lap of the race of 59.376. But that is soon going to change. And it's Kian Bernard for the lead again. Through we go at turn 1. Goodson on Chalk. And the 226 from Dan Holland Racing gets through for the race lead. And on that particular occasion, Lieke van Berkel was the quickest out of anybody. Finley Lines, new fastest lap of the race. 57.290 for the 281. And Hugo McCluskey giving Alex Goodson as much cheer as he can from the chat. And Gillian Maziak, I think your comment in the chat, you preempted something, but it didn't happen. Meantime, it's Linus Stern between the top 2. Chalk trying to get on the offensive now. Trying to get through at turn 11. Goodson keeping on the racing line. That's good work by the 226. He looks over his right shoulder. Cuts across the right-hand side of the circuit to defend against Chalk. He's gone round to the outside at turn 1. But here's Kian Bernard from Sam Pollock Racing. He dives to the inside of the MLC Motorsport driver. And Kian Bernard gets through. That's a great move. And that's for second position. Lennart Koester gets the black and white warning flag from race control. Lieke van Berkel, new fastest lap, 56.759. And now Lieke, she's up into P5. Lucian Smith is now starting to close on, as well as Lieke van Berkel. They have exchanged places. Harry Taylor is through on Finley lines, and now it's all starting to Concertina at the front end of the field. Goodson is really starting to have to defend against Bernard and Chalk at the sharp end. To the inside goes Van Berkel on Lucian Smith. And bit of a big old bump over the curbing. Out of the final corner goes Harry Taylor. Goodson gets a black and white warning flag, and here goes Chalk round the outside here at turn 1. He won't make it through there. Here comes Likel Van Berkel to the outside. Here's Lucian Smith to the inside of the 285. And he gets through, retakes 4th position, whereas Redeka Kart Racing Teams, Lionel Munguia puts in the new fastest lap of the race, 56.594. But Goodson still holding on for the race lead as Bernard tries to go to the outside at turn 6. That's not going to go very well there, as in the fact that Kean Bernard will not get through. And now it's going to be very, very close through into turn 9. Kean Bernard gets a warning flag. Van Berkel dives up the inside of Chalk. And Chalk's losing places. Smith has gotten through. And now look at the gaggle behind. That includes Harry Taylor, Lionel Munguia, Olivier Mazurkiewicz. Now Jensen Chalk gets back through on Likel Van Berkel. Retakes 3rd position. A little bit of a bump. Oh, Chalk goes off. Wide. Coming through turn number 5. A little bit of a bump and run possibly. As here we go. Up the inside. And that's not going to work. That was Lucian Smith on Likel Van Berkel, who runs over the cones just outside of the foam barriers just off of turn 6. Tran Van Mellick gets a black and white warning flag. The 218, they're being handed out like candy at the shop. But now this is given Alex Goodson the opportunity to get away. And he's away and clear by 1.3 seconds with 2/3 of the race completed. That's all. Bit of a stumble there by Lionel Munguia, and through goes Tran Van Mellick. Oh no, and there's contact. 250, Kimi Mai, and 235. That is Comin Pascu from Switzerland. They come together coming out of turn number 2. So now it's all for themselves. Kimi Mai still keeping with Pascu. And at the moment, that is the final position in the top 10, whereas Alex Goodson's already making his way down to turn number 11 as we speak. So 4 black and white warning flags being handed out by race control in what has been a very, very heated opening superheat for the juniors. There's Lucian Smith and Finley Lines. Finley running in his Team UK outfit, and through he goes at turn 2, wheel to wheel between the KR Sport drivers. And Finley Lines makes it nice and neatly through. Lucian Smith, however, returns the favour at turn 5. And there is Likel Van Berkel from the Netherlands for SP Motorsport. A team run and operated by Stan Pex, who's now enjoying his rallying. He's waiting for the season to start for that one. He'll be running in a Skoda Fabia Rally 2 this year. So now, between the 2 KR Sport drivers, Likel Van Berkel splits the pair. But at the moment, well, Alex Goodson is going to bring us on to 3 laps remaining, the way things are going, and he's rocketing into the distance. A 56.677 by the 226 from Dan Honda Racing as Likel Van Berkel to the inside of Lucian Smith for P3. And tries for the switch around into turn 3, bumps over the curbs. Finley Lines, like an absolute opportunist, does the pair of them through at turn 4. And into that mix now comes Olivier Mazurkiewicz, who's just put in the fastest lap of the race. Finley Lines now P3. Great job there by the 281. As Lionel Munguia gets forced a little bit wide, trying to battle away with Lucian Smith. Harry Taylor and a few others. Alfie Ward's just gone purple in the opening sector. We got 35 seconds on the timer, and things have not settled down quite yet. They will after the checkered flag flies. That's all. Bit of a moment there for the 240. Lucian Smith accidentally using the runoff area. Van Berkel trying to get through on Finley lines. And now Van Berkel's going to go side by side with the 281. That's going to allow a few others, including the 264 of Jensen Chalk. Trent Van Melk now gets through on the 281. Timer hits 0. And Alex Goodson up the road by 1.2 seconds. Lucian Smith gets the black and white warning flag from race control. And to the inside goes Jensen Chalk on Lieke Van Berkel. That's a change for P3. Next time round we will have the final lap of this race, as it is Goodson from Bernard from Chalk. That's your top 3 at the moment. Jensen Chalk, however, is not out of the woods yet. Last lap underway as Alex Goodson makes his way down into turn number 1 for the final time here on lap number 11. And now Jensen Chalk defending against Lieke Van Berkel. There's Trent Van Melk. And here goes Finney Lines up the inside through at turn 2. No hesitation at all from the 281 from KR Sport. Through into turn 5. There is Lionel Munguia trying to battle away with Trent Van Melk, who's looking to the inside of Finney Lines. But in the meantime, Alex Goodson started on the inside of the 5th row of the grid. P9, that's where the man from Dan Holland Racing started. Through into turn number 10. One more corner remains. And from 9th on the start, Dan Holland Racing's Alex Goodson powers out of the final corner with a commanding victory here in Super Heat A. Ahead of Cian Bernard from Sam Pollock Racing. Who's going to take P3? It's going to be MLC Motorsports, Jensen Chalk by a whisker ahead of Lieke Van Berkel. Finley Lines for KR Sport takes P5 ahead of Lionel Munguia. Alfie Ward finishes 7th ahead of Trent Van Melk. Harry Taylor and Olivier Mazurkiewicz who round out your top 10. Lucian Smith, Rares Cosmin Pascu, Leonard Costa, Tiger Hodhausen, Ludwig Hansson, Kimi Mai, Brakke Dion, Tobias Johns, Kieran Stewart, Jud Drent, Tim Feldman and Augustin Hanik that rounds out the finishers in that one. 23 started, 22 finished, and Devon Mieta unfortunately did not make it to the end of the race, retiring halfway through. Alex Goodson victorious in Super Heat A, as we'll be very back shortly after the highlights for Super Heat B. So, after the first superheat was concluded for Junior Rotax, we turn our attention to superheat B. So, Alex Goodson on the road, winning by just over 1.2 seconds after that rate. Well, 1.9 seconds nearly, as the dummy grid has been cleared. Once again, these junior drivers will go on to the track for 9 minutes plus an additional lap. And then we will have our last two superheats. That'll be the Senior Max Division, the most subscribed for this weekend. 51 drivers taking to the track in total. So there is Matthias Verreken, the 254. And some very, very impressive performances from the likes of the two drivers on the front row, Julian Dummer from Germany, and also Eren Lordogan from Turkey for Dan Holland Racing. But of course, the final classification for this particular race will then decide who will be going through to the top 36 final, and who, unfortunately, will find that their race weekend will come to its conclusion before the lunch break here today. And in terms of a weather update, temperature around about 2 degrees centigrade, but it probably feels a hell of a lot colder than that. And a big thank you to the medical team, the marshals that are on site here at the circuit for their fantastic assistance as always. Without these people, we cannot go racing, whether it be in karting, right the way up to the top level of high-tier motorsports. Wind has started to slightly pick up on the circuit as well, as the Mojo Rotax XPS flags on the start-finish straight are flapping away in the breeze. As we are about a minute away from the green flag being shown.
1 minute.
There's Finn Albert Jorgensen in the 265 kart, wearing his Team Denmark outfit. Come on, Finn, give us a wave. Probably can't hear me. That's the thing. There's a lot of insulation with these race helmets these days. There we go. A little wave from Julian Dummer. There's Luan Seidel just behind. And then also a wave there from Finn Albert Jorgensen. Finally. Great to get this perspective. Thanks to our team from WFR Live TV. Thumbs up from Eren Lordogan. Just behind him, he's got Strawberry Racing's Kai Clark in the 276. So, green flag shows, engines start up here in the last superheat for the Junior Max Division for the 2026 running. Oh, right, slight problems here for 267. Jesse Andringa for KSD. And finally, oh, well, the engine started up. And now Jesse Andringa has got to... now, is that kart coming to a stop? Oh, that might mean that the driver from the Netherlands might have to go to the repair area to start. Let's take you through the starting grid for Superheat B. It's going to be Eren Lordogan and Julian Dummer on the front row of the grid. Kai Clark and Luan Seidel, row 2. Sebastian Clark and Finn Albert Jorgensen, row 3. William Romfeldt and... Philip Hansler next up ahead of Imre Siedkowska and Yannick Courage. Max Boxall, Riley Morrow, Lorenko Villau, Albert Friend, Daniel Hakkinen, Matthias Verreken, Didi Dale, there's Jesse Andringa. Big thank you to our walking camera down on the dummy grid, showing that Jesse Andringa will start from the dummy grid once the lights go out and the field is released. Justin Fonk, Anton Christensen, Odysseus Hall, Leon Herbos and Sasha Al-Jabrail will round out the starting order. There's a few people that I need to give a birthday shout out who have been to this circuit before. Shun Sekaguchi's birthday is today. Tom Adams' dad, Chris, his birthday is today. And also Vicky Cummings. I know she's now based over in the UAE, but here we go. Sebastian Clark being given some cheers in the chat. So now, the red lights are on the gantry for Superheat B for Junior Rotax. And after this, we'll whittle it down to the top 36 drivers following the final intermediate classification. And then we'll have to concentrate on the seniors. Right then, out of the final corner, revs up, lights on. Lights are out, we're underway here for the Superheat. And oh, there's... drivers are getting very, very close to each other. It is a battle for the race lead at the sharp end. Kai Clark, I think, might have just gotten through, and he has. So now we get into full stride here in Superheat B for the juniors, but it is going to be the 276 of Kai Clark that is absolutely lighting up the timesheets. He's rocketed away from Eren Unuldog, and Julian Dummer rounds out your top three. Philipp Hansler and Emil Siedkowska, the two German drivers, battling away with each other, and they're at two different camps. Oh, bit of a snap oversteer there for Julian Dummer, going through into the opening corner. And he's got in front of him the likes of Luan Seidel and Finn Albert Jorgensen, the youngster from Denmark. Previously a Rotax Max Challenge Germany champion in his own right. And last year got his ticket through the Rotax Max Challenge Denmark. So Finn Albert Jorgensen and Luan Seidel, the Swiss and the Dane, they have got Germany's Julian Dummer from Kraft Motorsport right with them, coming out of turn number 9 into the sweeper at turn 10. But at the moment, the pace that Kai Clark has got is absolutely astonishing. He's away and clear, and it looks like he's trying to get out of Belgium and go back home early. Luan Seidel looking to the inside. Oh, slight clatter between left fronts of Seidel. Here goes Julian Dummer up the inside on the Swiss racer, through for P4, turn 3. So well done there by Julian Dummer. And just behind, well, Sebastian Clark's got a little bit of love in the chat. And so he is now up into sixth. Well, he started 5th. He's now up into 6th. Riley Morrow, though, however, last year, very, very good job there by the 238. Now has moved up 5 positions. Is ahead of Emil Siedkowska. Philipp Hansler and William Ronfeld rounding out your top 10. Other movers up the order. Leon Herbo is up to 18th. Daniel Hakkinen has unfortunately dropped down to 19th position, having started 15th on the grid. 6 minutes still to go, plus an additional lap, so we are 1/3 of the way through this Superheat. And Finn Albert Jorgensen now chasing after Erin Unlodogan, the Dane to the outside, gets the switch back. All contact between the pair coming through turn 3 into turn 4. The Dane makes it through, and there goes Luan Seidel. Riley Morrow, in the meantime, comes in with the fastest lap of the race. The driver from Sam Pollitt Racing. 56.803 for Riley Morrow on that particular occasion. And he is 4.1 seconds off of the race leader. All 23 starters are still running. Rounded out by Jesse Andringa, who's about 7.4 seconds behind Lourenço Villau from Portugal, who has unfortunately dropped 9 spots. Unlodogan gets the black and white warning flag from race control. There's now the gap between Kai Clark and new second place runner Finn Albert Jorgensen is 2.5 seconds, and that gap is climbing. Riley Morrow is starting to close in onto Gillian Dummer, and there is Riley Morrow. Another fastest lap by the 238, and he dives to the inside of the 225 from Kraft Motorsport. Riley Morrow now up 6 places from 12th on the grid on the outside of row number 6. Now is halfway through the journey of trying to get from the outside of row 6 to the sharp end of the field at the front end of it. However, as we hit the halfway point of this race, Riley Morrow, having to fight with Gillian Dummer, is losing in terms of being able to put down some solid, quick lap times. Justin Fonk down in 16th position is the latest driver to get a black and white warning flag from race control. And in the meantime, Riley Morrow has got past Sebastian Clark. So that is another position gained, 7 places by the 238 from Sam Pollitt Racing. Good to have them back in the paddock as well. But we still have 3.5 minutes remaining on the counter, plus an additional lap. And believe you me, whoever gets through into the top 36 final, someone better try and stamp out the fuse that might get lit and set off the fireworks. Meantime, with just over 3 minutes to go, Finn Albert Jorgensen has just put in the fastest lap of the race. Well, did put in the fastest lap of the race until Albert Friend. But in the 2:19, just put in a 56.247. Now be up to P10, switching to DHR for this season. Didn't have a good run in one of the heats yesterday. Ended up needing a little check over by our medical team after an incident heading into turn number 1. Riley Morrow, I don't think's done yet. His next target, Erin Unlodogan, the Turkish driver from Dan Holland Racing, who is literally half a kart length in front. Morrow might get the slipstream here, get the opportunity, dives to the inside before even turn 1, and Riley Morrow made that look very, very easy indeed. So Morrow now up into P4, new fastest lap by the 238 from Sam Pollitt Racing, 56.040. And he's fastest overall in the opening and the final sector. William Ronfeldt from Denmark in the 263, fastest overall in sector 2. But Finn Albert Jorgensen is running close to a 10.5 or just over a 10.5 quicker in the opening sector in comparison with Kai Clark. Gap now down to 1.6 seconds. Finn Albert Jorgensen really starting to find his stride. And he's bringing along KR Sport teammate who's wearing the Sunday whites, Luan Seidel, in 3rd position. So the 2 KR Sport teammates running line astern. So working together to achieve a common goal. Well, they both might want to try and go for the victory. as Albert Friend pumps in the new fastest lap without even setting a fastest sector out of any of the three. A 56.038 for the 219. So gap now just under 1.5 seconds between Kai Clark and Finn Albert Jorgensen. 2 laps will remain after this one as we complete lap number 9 out of 11. On to lap 10 we go. Gap is slowly being whittled away. As the sharp end of the field hits the Europelan for what will be the penultimate time. Riley Morrow starting to slowly but surely close on in. He is going to run out of time, I feel. Reference second and third position. So next time around, the last lap board will be shown. And Kai Clark in the 276, whose lead is now down to just under over a second, crosses the line. 11th and final lap underway, and Lewin Seidel tries to pull alongside KR Sport teammate Finn Albert Jorgensen. And now Riley Morrow is not that far behind. That gap is about 2 kart lengths between him and Lewin Seidel in P3. Down the Europelan we go for the final time. Seidel to the outside of Jorgensen into turn 6. The gap now down to just under a second, 0.958 to be more pedantic. Out of turn 8. Lewin Seidel just saying, come on Finn, just move, keep going. Pick up the pace. There's always a strategy. And through into the final corner, the winner of Super Heat B from Strawberry Racing, it's Kai Clark that's victorious after 11 laps of racing and wins by a margin of 0.8 of a second from Finn Albert Jorgensen. Lewin Seidel, great work by Riley Morrow from the outside of row 6 to finish P4. Edenuno Dogan, Julian Dummer, Albert Friend up 7 spots from the outside of row 7. The number 7 for Albie was definitely very lucky on this particular occasion. William Ronfeld, Philip Hansler, Sebastian Clark, they ran out your top 10. Matthias Verreken started on the outside of row 8, finishes P11. And he's ahead of Imre Siedkowska, Jenny Courage, Justin Fonk, Didi Dadala, Max Bogsal, Daniel Hakkinen, Leon Herbos, Anton Christensen, Odysseus Hall, Lorenko Villau, Sasha Algebrail, and Jesse Andringa, whose race really didn't get started. But with Kean Bernard winning Super Heat A, Kai Clark winning Super Heat B, that's it for the Junior Rotax division. Next up, after the highlights, we'll be turning our attention to Super Heat A for Senior Rotax. So we now go into the final stages of the Super Heat, part of the 2026 running of the Champions Winter Trophy, with live streaming coverage provided by WFR Live TV, live and direct from the home of Champions Karting Genk in Belgium. Alex Goldschmidt up in the commentary box, just overlooking the circuit. And we see in discussion Tino Sidler to the right-hand side of your screens. For those watching at home on YouTube and on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us once again. But a very, very competitive 50-plus strong division here for the senior Rotax side of things. Once again, as we've seen all weekend long in the heats yesterday, it has been 3 different winners from 3 different heats. Heat 1 was taken by Bouvin Power's Lars Lambers. Heat 2 by SP Motorsports Max Swiderski. And Vince van der Holle took the confirmed victory in the 375 in Heat 3 yesterday. But there's a lot of great talent. The likes of Bran van der Weken, Austin Lee, and also the man that took the B&L Karting Series title and also the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals senior crown at Bahrain late last year, Macaulay Bishop from the United Kingdom. And when you consider about the fact of 51 drivers, it's a big, big grid. But after the 2 super heats today and we go into the lunch break, the Senior Rotax Division will close out the show for the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy at around about 3:15 local time, Central European time here in the Limburg region of Belgium. The top 36 will go through, and the other drivers, the 15, will be said, well, they'll be told, thank you very much for being with us. Unfortunately, that's the end of your weekend. Anything to get some air, anytime, any opportunity there to try and get some airtime. There's, as always, there are some great teams that run in national, international paddocks around the globe. And a lot of these people that are standing with the drivers, they're the unsung heroes behind the scenes. The driver coaches, the mechanics. There is so much hard work that goes into the modern day age of karting. There's a lot of data analysis. And it's braving all weathers. I still remember one particular individual, I can't remember who it was. It was someone from Finland. Who I said, well, it's raining, you got shorts on. I was just so my trousers don't get wet. You know, it's humorous little things like that over the years. But the dummy grid is now being cleared with 3 minutes to go until the green flag is shown at the end of the dummy grid, releasing the drivers onto the 1,360 metre clockwise circuit. We have had some developments in the meantime for the Super Heat for Minimax and Minimax Rookie. Sebastian Behrmann was confirmed as the race winner ahead of Dams Racing's August Liquibo-Lingso. Marie Roberto promoted up to P3 at the end of the race, as we did have a couple of exclusions. Arlo Gamble and Eddie Duncan were excluded due to being found to be underweight. So a few other drivers got promoted. So Dean Habits got a 5-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. So that meant that the Dams Racing driver was demoted down to 4th. Harris Barber made some good moves, but then ended up with a front bumper penalty, as did Julian Janssen. Ivan Janishevich also got the yellow flag 5-second time penalty. Along with that, Arthur Bowers, 5-second penalty for front bumper penalty. For the front bumper being out of position. Ben Falker got a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. And then Kan Aras Akgun and Tim Hansler also got a front bumper 5-second time penalty post-race. So that has, in some ways, shaken up the top 10 in the final intermediate classification, which Sebastian Behrmann is at the top of with 213 points. D and Habits and August Ninkabo Lingzo round out the top 3 on 189 and 167 apiece. Then it is KR Sports, Conrad Doyle, Jackson Hilton, James Roots, Maria Roberto, Kian Hay, still in the top 10 consistently over the weekend in the 68 top mini rookie, ahead of Jonathan Falcon Otterson and Eddie Duncan after the unfortunate exclusion in the superheat. Ends up down in 10th position. But we will have 34 drivers out for the final a little bit later on. So the green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid and the green light flashes on the Digi flag just overlooking the start-finish line. Here's your starting grid for Superheat A, senior Rotax, 12 minutes plus an additional lap being the duration. It's an all-Belgian front row with Vince van der Holle joined by Lars Lambers. Austin Lee from Germany and Bastien Misniel from France round out row 2. Sverre Ubben from Belgium and Thijs van Wijk from the Netherlands round out row 3. Row 4, it's the United Kingdom and France with Scott Marsh joined by Mehdi Lassoud. And then it's the Netherlands versus the United Kingdom. Flynn Fitters and Rory Armstrong. They will effectively complete the top 10. Matej Konik, Vic van Kampenhout, Manola Sendam, Barin Blankenberg, Priam Lelang, Conor Large, Reimer van Beek, Arav Dewan, Gabriel Svitala, then Tino Sidler, Titouan Hoche, Charlie King, Demir Oskultekin, Rein van der Meer and Koen Willems rounding out the starting grid. So the lights are on the gantry. The sun continues to beat down on the circuit here as we just have gone past 12:05 local time. So Sunday afternoon very much in full effect here at the home of champions. It's going to be down to the two Bouvin Power teammates Van der Halle and Lambers on the front row. So that could be, I'm wondering if we are going to get a clean start? Yes, we are. We're underway. I think a few drivers got caught out a little bit, but we are green. We are racing. As everyone battling for position, going through the opening 4 turns. Van der Halle leads the way. Lambers is not in second. It's Austin Lee, who's now returned to an old haunt, Strawberry Racing. And now Austin Lee goes and gets the race lead from Vince van der Halle, who last year ran in juniors. And there's going to be a change for P3. That's Sverre Ubben. Good work there by the GKS Levens Power driver. Obviously, GKS Levens Power have had the likes of 2009 Formula 1 and 2018 Super GT GT500 driver, who recently retired at the tail end of last year, Jenson Button, as part of their ranks over the years. But Austin Lee leads after the opening lap by just under 0.3 of a second. Van der Halle, Ubben, Lambers, Van Wijk. And then you've got Lassoud, Fitters, Mesnil, Scott Marsh, Rory Armstrong. They round out your top 10. So early doors into this race, and Austin Lee within the first lap has bolted to the sharp end. He's starting to pull a little bit of a gap. Oh, big moment there, and into the barriers. That's Sverre Ubben. Oh, Lars Lambers went over the back axle of the X3 chassis, and Sverre Ubben has just tumbled, and that was coming through into the final corner. So a bit of a disaster there for Sverre Ubben, but through no fault of his own. That just goes to show it is going to be the case that now others will profit when some people make an, you know, it can happen. Mistakes can be made by every single driver. It does not matter what happens. If someone makes a mistake, there's someone that's going to pay the price by being an unwilling participant. Meantime, Vince van der Halle to the inside of Austin Lee. Change for the race lead here on lap number 4. So nice, clean move. And with that, Vince van der Halle sets the new fastest lap of the race, a 54.668. There's definitely a lot of warmth coming from the sun from up above, which is a good thing to see. Lars Lambers now goes quickest in the opening sector. Closing on G-Kart 53's Mehdi Lassoud in the number 326. There's all moments. Big old moment there. And that is Tino Sidler. I spoke to him last night, and he said, well, the transponder, he said that there was an engine problem during the day. They had to replace everything on the vehicle, including the wiring loom. And he got a mechanical black flag in the final heat yesterday, was going up to P2 at its highest. And I said to him, well, I want you fired up and ready for today. Well, he's definitely obliged. He's up 11 spots from the outside of row 10, now runs P9. Bastien Mesnil now gets a warning flag from race control in the 306. Mesnil currently running in P11 and has dropped 7 places from the outside of row number 2. Meantime, Vince van der Halle, Austin Lee and Thijs van Wijk are now your top 3. So we've got Bouvin Power leading Strawberry Racing, leading Dan Holland Racing. Lars Lambers running in 4th, Lassoud in 5th, Scott Marsh making a return to Rotax competition. Great to see him back in the paddock. up to P6. Rory Armstrong, the young man from County Down, Northern Ireland, now up into P7. Tino Sidler now up into 8th. That is charging forward, setting personal best. Taze van Wyk has just gone and set the overall fastest sector in the first one out of anybody in this race. But still, nevertheless, sometimes you've got to strategize. Keep your Mojo D5s into the window of operation. And at the minute, well, Austin Lee is just calmly, coolly looking over his right shoulder with the slightest of glances. And now he dives to the inside. Good move there by the man from Germany. Dad Rob with him this weekend. Rob originally from Portland in Oregon in the USA. And now Austin takes the race lead. But it's now an opportunity. Taze van Wyk. Look to the inside. Can he get the crossover possibly on Vince van der Holle? He's going to try through turn 7. Van der Holle kept his elbows out. And little bit of a bump between the pair. 3 wide coming out of the corner. And Lars Lambers does a number of the pair of them. He got the Belgian buy one, get one free special. Did Lars Lambers in the 342. And now Van Wyk to the inside of the final corner. Van der Holle just went completely wide. I think he wanted to avoid any trouble. And here comes Scott Marsh behind Mehdi Lassoud, and he's round to the outside. We've got a race on our hands here, folks. And Mehdi Lassoud in the 326 Sony car being pressurised by the likes of Scott Marsh, Taze van Wyk, Rory Armstrong, and here goes Marsh to the inside at 6. They both run a little bit wide. Rory Armstrong gets through. And I don't think he was the only one. And also Taze van Wyk got the opportunity. Van Wyk got through, then Rory Armstrong did. That's the thing down at the Europolan at turn 6. If you decide to dive bomb somebody, you're going to open the door quite widely for those behind. As here comes a recovering Vince van der Holle. He's got Tino Sidler and Flynn Fitters right on his case. As now Taze van Wyk and Rory Armstrong up 3 and 6 places respectively apiece. Rory Armstrong really putting himself into a good form of contention to maybe starting within the top 3 rows. Maybe, depending on how the scores on the doors work out after the final intermediate classification. Who knows? He could be within the top 10 of that top 36 that make it through. Dive to the inside of the 375. Tino Sidler now up into 6th. He's just got through on Vince van der Holle. As there goes Flynn Fitters on Mehdi Lassoud, as now van der Holle through to the inside of Sidler. Retakes the position back. I'm sure that Tino Sidler, who had the pace to win a heat yesterday, quite evidently in that final heat on heats day itself, I knew he had the speed, but of course with the transponder not functional, well, they had to do the only thing which was mechanically black flag the driver. But nevertheless, here we go. Sidler has got away! There's a tangle of Vince van der Holle, 180 degrees backwards on the Europolan. And there was a little bit of a touch between him, and it looks like Flynn Fitters was the other party. Yeah, he was trying to close off Flynn Fitters, and it was unstoppable force versus immovable object. And Vince van der Holle, that speed, they're reaching north of 100 kph. And that has tumbled Vince van der Holle right down the order. Meantime, with 2.5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap, it is Austin Lee versus Lars Lambers at the sharp end of the field. Come through into turn 7. So Austin Lee parks it on the racing line. Is exactly what he needs to do to keep Lars Lambers at bay. They're running in the, well, Austin Lee's last lap, 55.1. Lars Lambers, 54.7. Coming across the line, it's about 3/10 between the pair. Lambers to the inside for the race lead. And now we're on to lap number 12. Give or take, we're probably going to have another 3 laps of racing, not including this one. So could be going at a distance of 15 laps in total. Through at turn 5, Austin Lee, late lunge, through he goes. And now the gap between Austin Lee and Lars Lambers has just swung the other way and expanded to 0.3 of a second. Out of turn number 8. And in the meantime, whilst these two are battling, the gap that was between Thijs van Wijk and Lars Lambers was 2.9. It's now gone down by nigh on a second. Close to 2.1. The two Dan Holland Racing teammates. Now, bearing in mind, Rory Armstrong last year was a junior, racing along with the likes of Van der Holle, Lambers, Jacob Ashcroft, who pretty much nigh on won everything. And was the man when it came to junior Rotax, when you looked at it from a global perspective. And now obviously Jacob moving up into Janetta's juniors. Good luck to him, Dad Barry and Mum Louise, obviously with their Club 46 thing they've got going on as well. But we are coming towards the tail end of this first of 2 highly charged senior Rotax superheats. 15 seconds on the timer. The leader's now heading towards the final corner. We could be very tight on time. It is literally 2 seconds and Austin Lee crossed the line. 2 laps to go. Gap between him and Lars Lambers, 0.3 of a second. And now it's 1.9 between Lambers and Van Wijk for second and third position. But good work by Thijs van Wijk and Rory Armstrong to really put themselves into the mix. Tino Sidler, at the meantime, is now up into 6th position. He's 3/4 of a second behind Scott Marsh in 5th place. And Sidler, the hardest charger in this race, 14 positions gained. As now we head into turn 9 for the penultimate time at Cafe Corner off of the grandstand. Austin Lee continues to lead. Lars Lambers, if he wants to win this superheat, he's going to have to try every trick in the NFL playbook to get through. Round to the outside, he sweeps. Austin Lee goes to the right-hand side of the circuit. Last lap underway. Lee versus Lambers. And the 377 continues to hold station at the front end. And now it's 1.4 seconds between second and third. That gap is closing immeasurably as we head onto the Europelan for the final time. And Lars Lambers to the inside. Austin Lee goes outside at turn 6. Has to slot back in behind. Lambers through. But still, don't count out any driver. And now look at the gap between Austin Lee and third place, Thijs van Wijk. The gap's now down to 1.1 seconds. Through towards the final corner we head. Will Lambers hold on? What will Austin Lee do through the final corner? It's going to be the run to the line. Superheat A. It goes the way of Lars Lambers, who wins by 1/10.5 after 15 laps ahead of Austin Lee. Thijs van Wijk and Rory Armstrong, the Dan Holland Racing pairing, round out the top 4. Scott Marsh in 5th. Tino Sidler from the outside of row 10 to P6. Manny Lassoud, Bastien Misnil, Flynn Fitters, and well done to Charlie King, 22nd, outside of row 11 to round out the top 10. Conor Lage finishes 11th ahead of Priam Lilang, Matej Konik, Vic van Kampenhout, Bodine Blankenberg, Arav Dewan, Manolo Sentin, Koen Willems, Gabriel Svitala, and then Rein van der Meer rounding out your top 20. Vince van der Holle, after contact with Flint Fitters down the Europlan with a few laps to go, ends up finishing down in 21st position. Demir Osgultekin, Titouan Houchet, Raymond van Beek, are the last of the classified runners, and unfortunately on lap 2 it was game over for Sverre Ubben from GKS Lemons Power. Lars Lammers wins Superheat A. Who will triumph in Superheat B? Join us after the highlights for this race to find out. So, one more superheat remaining here in the 2026 running of the Champions Winter Trophy here at the home of champions, Karting Genk in Belgium. As we have another grid of senior Rotax drivers looking to make their way into the top 36 final. That will take place at around about 3:15 this afternoon. That's Central European time. So if you are watching from, let's say, the United States of America, that will be about 10:15 in the morning, as Eastern Standard Time is normally 5 hours behind. That'll probably be 6. That'll be 9:15 in the morning if you're watching from the USA. If you're watching from the UK, that's 2:15 in the afternoon. Right, green flag shown at the end of the dummy grid, and the green light flashes on the digi flag as we get set for 12 minutes of racing action, plus an additional lap for the last superheat. It's Senior Max, Superheat B. Here's your starting grid. Max Sadursky starts on pole position with Bran van der Weyken alongside. Macaulay Bishop and Ryan Gandor line up on row 2 with Boris Maximov and Julian Klausmann making it an all-Dutch row 3. All-French row 4 with Tom Lenoir and Theo Guillutot rounding out that. Then Luca Thiel and Tino Potier round out your top 10. Boris Verhagen, Baptiste Michardier round out row 6. Bo Alaris and Hugo Crastul round out the next row, followed by Charlie Cox and Len Nyes, Jon Jelle Bremer, Ömer Ulis Akbag, Kenneth van Makerker, Augustin Selik, Alexander Holman, Len Druers, Jules de Hoek, Simeo Merafina, and Filip Wisniewski round out the field. Good to catch up with Luca Thiel. I hadn't seen him for about the best part of 18 months. I think it was the last time I saw him. It was the final round of Rotax Max Challenge Germany, which was at Motorsport Arena in Mulden, which is like literally about half an hour outside of Zwickau, which is where Volkswagen produce all their all-electric vehicles in the Saxony region of East Germany. Did explain to me that they were having some problems with the engine, but he's hoping that there's a little bit of a turnaround here today. And I said, well, as you always know, Luca, tomorrow is another day, and it's sunnier, it's brighter, but still the wind has picked up a little bit more, judging by the flags, the national flags that we have on the outside of the start-finish straight at this wonderful location here in the Limburg region of eastern Belgium. So cheers coming in the YouTube chat for Boris Maximov, Bran van der Weyken, who are both in this race. We are under starters' orders. For this last superheat of the weekend. The drivers make their way through to the final corner. Macaulay Bishop has already qualified for Portimao this year to defend his Grand Finals title. But here we go. Lights are out for Superheat B. Run down to turn 1. Sadursky leads the way. And more to the point, it's about how everyone gets through. Some are going to have to use the runoff area. 3 wide for P4. Luca Thiel trying to sneak his way through on the inside of 3. But Sadursky holds on. He's right with him. There we go. Macaulay Bishop gets a lightning start in the 302, and he's got through before turn 6. Off of the Uniplan, and the defending Grand Finals champion, who will return to Portimao this year to defend it, is going to be in the race lead. There through goes the 358. Boris Maximov took the Dutch Chrono Karting Junior Max title last year, before in the latter part of the season deciding to test ahead in race weekend conditions as a senior. Move there. Theo Guillutot 3, and that was on the 312 of Charlie Cox. But now Macaulay Bishop is away and clear, showing he's stamping down a sign of intent is the man from Hoddesdon. As Sadursky through, And here goes Ryan Gandel. They both get through at turn 5 on Boris Maximov. And here comes Bran van der Weyken through at turn 6. And Maximov at one point was P3, and now he's dropped down to 5th position. More to the point, the lead after what will be 2 laps is going to be north of 1.3 seconds, but it depends on how quick the drivers are behind. 1.3 it continues to be. Ryan Gandor shows his nose up the inside, lunges past Max Swiderski, and through he goes for 2nd position. So the 302 from Hodderton in Hertfordshire away and clear. And that gap will increase if everyone else starts to battle away behind. And the Canadian holds on to P2 for the moment. Bran van der Weyken is the quickest overall in the opening sector with a 22.148. Swiderski on the offensive to the inside at turn 9 he goes. And he's through on Gandor. Swiderski up to P2. And now as they continue to battle, the gap has now increased to 1.9 seconds after the opening 3 laps. Macaulay Bishop with the new fastest lap of the race. 55.241 seconds for the Dan Holland Racing driver. Bran van der Weyken looking to see if he can get through on Ryan Gandor for P3. He's got Boaz Maximov in his wheel tracks. Julian Klosman for SR Solutions. The team run by Scott Swart, and with one of the main mechanics being Matty Sterlo, a long-time senior Rotax exponent. Tom Langlois in 7th. Luca Thiel, Boris Verhaag, and Theo Giluto rounding out the top 10. As Klausman holds on to position, but Tom Langlois, who was with Dams Racing last year, runner-up in the B&L Karting Series title race, which was won by the man at the sharp end of the field. And here goes Langlois on Klausman. Through he goes before they even hit the apex at turn number 1. Great move there by the 355. As Bishop again sets another fastest overall in the middle and final sector. A little bit of a touch between Van der Weyken and Gandor. That's going to allow possibility of Maximov to get through, but he doesn't. Langlois now finds himself up to 5th position, so good movement by the 355 from France. Of course, Sodica, the team led, well, the manufacturer led by the team in France by Bertrand Pignolet, man who've had the pleasure of meeting with. And now, Van der Weyken got a little bit sneaky there. Luca Thiel dived to the inside, and then Julian Klosman did a number on the pair of them through the final corner, got the buy one, get one free. Special, if you will. As soon as that happens, if you see a gap and you rather than using the sign of desperation in your driving, use the sense of urgency, and the urgency means you've got a calmer head. You're able to read the situation and sometimes work it out on the fly. Sometimes you have to be a little bit proactive, or sometimes a bit reactive in your driving application. So we are 30 seconds away from the halfway point of this 12-minute plus an additional lap superheat. Macaulay Bishop is away and clear, 2.7 seconds up the road. A look to the inside of Len Nyes in the 317. And that was Baptiste Michel Dial that got through in the 386. Meantime, just in front, 359. Tino Potier for Dams Racing. In front of him has got Theo Giluto and Boris Verhaag just behind in the 303. As we now officially hit half-time. Igor Schnittger in the YouTube chat saying, come on, Boris, let's go, Boris Verhaag. Well, Boris is holding station in the place where exactly he started this race. P11. As I say, a big thank you to Antoine Bubble, who's actually wished me have a good day when I posted on Instagram a little bit earlier on. Meantime, Blan van der Weyken has got the fastest lap of the race. Here goes the 3.58, Boris Maximov. Through he goes at turn 1 on Ryan Gandor. That's P3. Now in the hands of the 3.58 from Strawberry Racing. Blan van der Weyken, new fastest lap, 55.108. Fastest overall in Sector 1. Fastest overall in Sector 3. Theo Giluto seems to be really getting some good purchase in that middle sector and is the fastest out of anybody in that part of the circuit. However, here is the battle for P5. Julian Klossmann is effectively the cork in the bottle. Langlois right on his rear bumper. And there is the 314 of Theo Giluto. Meantime, Maximov and Gandor have gotten away into the distance. Max Sadursky just keeping his head down, trying to close in. Look at the swarm behind. Oh, it could be a nigh-on free-for-all going into turn 1 very, very shortly. They're going to be Noah's Ark style, 2x2, as they're going to come through turn 2. Up the inside goes Klossmann. Oh, bit of snap-on oversteer for Lucas Heel. And his right front gets clattered by the left rear wheel of Van der Weyken. And there goes a little bit of a... I'm not too sure. I think there might have been a little bit of an assist, and all of a sudden, Lucas Thiel was unstable. But Anne van der Weyken gets the warning flag. Len Noyes gets exited stage left a little bit, coming through out of turn number 6. And now, oh dear, now, Julian Klossmann. Oh, Lucas Thiel tries to storm around the outside. This is going to get very gnarly very quickly. Let me guarantee you of that much. Klossmann, I think, bumped into Thiel. Might not have inadvertently seen him. I couldn't really see the whole picture. But Lucas Thiel, far from happy with what just happened. I can't blame him for that. He was coming out of turn 8. And Klossmann turned left. Slammed into the sidewalls of Thiel. But obviously, at the end of the day, I'm not going to call any judgment on any driver. It might be my opinion, and in some respects you can agree to disagree, but I always say that, yeah, you can agree to disagree, but respect people's opinions. At the end of the day, I am not a racing driver. I have never been a racing driver. It's from what I see on the screen. Meantime, Macaulay Bishop is comfortably running away with this race. 2.2 seconds up the road. Max Sadursky, good showing in his first real outing as a senior, along with Boris Verhagen and Ryan Gandor, who have both moved up, who have also moved up from the junior ranks since last season. Ryan Gandor now the fastest one, the Canadian for KR Sports, 55.040. I still remember the days back when good old Sean Butcher and Lockie Robinson were running in the good old colours. I know Sean is a lot more involved with the data driver coaching these days. But still a man that joined, when you look at about it. When I first started working in Europe and I joined the B&L Karting Series as the official commentator, there were the likes of Clayton Ravenscroft, Joe Turney, and all those wonderful people that I got to know over the last side of things. Kenneth Van Monkerker gets a black and white warning flag. And hello to Macaulay's mum Kitty, who's watching back at home. Hope you're keeping well. So Kenneth Van Monkerker gets a black and white warning flag. We are coming down to the last minute and a half plus an additional lap. Boris Maximov and Ryan Gandor still battling away for P3. But yeah, there were some great times. I still remember 2019, I did Kart Masters at PFI, and we had multiple drivers that were dovetailing Senior X30 and Senior Rotax that year. There was a particular individual that broke a record that was long-standing, Ben Barnacote, who was in action at the Liquimoli Bathurst 12 Hours this weekend just gone, or this weekend. He's been running in IMSA, 9 times a Grand Prix champion at Kart Masters. Good to hear from you, Kitty. It's lovely to hear that you're watching. I did have a chat with your other half the other day, and good to see him and Macaulay in good form. And then told me about what happened over in the United States for the Winter Trophy for RTX. well, the Florida Winter Trophy, which now has become the Texas Winter Trophy because it was in Florida through RTX Karting. Now it's gone under Race Rotax's umbrella and moved to Houston. Of course, we've also had the Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy Asia this year at the Cologne Circuit in Macau. So right off of the Circuit de Gaia, which hosts the Macau GT World Cup and the Macau Grand Prix every year. So we're coming down to the wire. It is going to be one more lap to go here in the last superheat of the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy. Macaulay Bishop en route to a clear, comfortable and concise victory here in Superheat B, which will assure him of a guaranteed place in the top 36 runners and riders in the finals later on. And obviously, before we go to the lunch break, I'm going to talk to you all about the prizes that are going to be up for grabs for our drivers that will be making it through to the finals. We'll also be holding a very, very special lottery, and I'll get onto that in just a moment, as we are coming to the end of our Superheat stages of the 2026 running of the Champions Winter Trophy here at Karting Genk. And Macaulay Bishop, well, started from the inside of row number 2. He strides into the stratosphere with victory here in Superheat B. Max Sidursky takes P2. Ryan Gandor, Boris Maximov, Bran van der Weken and Tom Lenoir round out your top 6. Who's going to be 7th? Boris Verhaag ahead of Julian Klosman. Baptiste Michel and Luca Thiel from Germany round out the top 10. Theo Giluto, Jon Jelle Bremer, Len Nyes, Hugo Grasto, and Timio Merafina round out your top 15. There's the winning statistics. 19.04 kilometres, nearly 13 minutes of race time. And there is your race winner, the defending and reigning Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals Senior Rotax Champion, Macaulay Bishop, who I hope will be coming back to the B&L Karting Series this season to defend his Senior Rotax title. There's your top 12. Bishop, Sidursky and Gandor rounding out the top 3. And the only driver, unfortunately not making it to the end of the race, will be Alexander Holman. And with that being said, that concludes the morning's action for the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy. And as the highlights play along of our Superheat B for Senior Rotax, I can now divulge the following information. So, a winner in each class will get a brand new set of tyres, and that is for all 6 classes. So for Mini Rookie, Mini Max, Junior Max, Senior Max, DD2 and DD2 Masters. And we will be having a lottery draw for a very, very special reason. There are 2 championships coming up very, very shortly. The first week of March sees the brand new United Kart Series starting in earnest here at the Home of Champions, the first of 7 rounds. And then on the 21st to the 22nd of March, the B&L Karting Series will make its return to France and the Racing Kart JPR circuit in Austricourt on the penultimate weekend of that month. By lottery, we will be giving away 1 full season entry for the UKS 2026 and also 1 full entry for the entirety of the 4-round B&L Karting Series Season Championship that starts at Austricourt in the penultimate weekend of March and concludes on the first weekend of October. But a really enthralling and at times aggressive Superheat B here in Senior Rotax. But a great battle between Boris Maximov and Ryan Gandor would be part and parcel of the majority of that race, but Macaulay Bishop showing his sign of authority in the Senior Rotax division, despite not having the best qualifying here yesterday morning. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the B&L Karting Series YouTube channel and our Facebook page. This has been a WFR live TV production. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and we'll see you just before the finals this afternoon to find out who will be our 2026 Champions Winter Trophy winners here in Limburg. See you then.